Welcome. I changed it up a little bit to another episode of Chasing Labels. How you doing, guys? I'm Stephen Billings. This is Andrew Cabral. What's up, man?
Good. I like the little improvisation. Caught me off guard.
I know.
Well done.
Ha.
I know. We are once again back here for another episode of Chasing Labels. This is episode / spy number 128. We are heading towards the end of the calendar year of 2023. For those of you listening now or into the future, can't really listen in the past unless you time traveled, which if you did, message us and tell us how the future is.
Fucking waste of time to listen to an episode of Chasing Labels during that time.
I mean, you never know what the future is gonna. They could travel back and be like, "Hey, what was the culture like at the time? Let's listen to what people have to say."
Chasing Labels. Let's see what that is.
I
don't think with our chart rankings it would be the first podcast that they came across.
It would be amazing though.
It would be amazing.
We have to cover all the bases here anyway.
Yeah, would be amazing.
But yeah, we are coming to you. Like I said, towards the end of the year. Not a lot doing when it comes to movie announcements on physical media this week. Especially compared to the end of November and the first couple of days of December. It maybe it's the twilight days of the year that are doing it. Maybe that's the issue that's going on.
Maybe.
As it is, all of the major companies that we have covered here on the show over the last year have, their slates have already been out for the remainder of the year. They're starting their slates for the new year. Some of them are already into February. People are already thinking about March. I'm just trying to get to the end of this year.
Well, we were just talking about it. We're getting ready for Shelf Shock. The second annual Shelf Shock is going to be. Now, of course, I'm not hosting this year. I decided to take a break from all the behind the scenes stuff because I just got a lot going on. But of course, Mr. Disconnected over there, Ryan Verrill and Celeste de Cabra is helping them this year. And so, yeah, but we're still, of course, going to be part of. I'm still behind the scenes. Going to be, of course, part of the CSC, which is the committee that helps come up with the nominations and vote. And of course, Andrew does that as well. So we're both kind of like racking our brains right now, trying to make sure we get in some good nominations for this year. And then, can't wait to vote. Can't wait for the next show coming up. I think February 18th, I believe. So it's 18th or 19th. I think it's 18th.
It should be a lot of fun. It gives us and probably a lot of other collectors who are part of the selection committee to take a look back at the year that was for physical media and when it comes to movies for 2023. I know it's made me do that. Even though we talk about it every week, it's still a lot to remember off the top of one's head. So I have to.
Well, it also makes us take a deeper look because a lot of the categories make us go deeper with some of these releases.
Yeah, and to actually see like, hey, what was actually a worthwhile release. Maybe it's a lot of things we haven't even bought yet, a lot of things we still haven't added to our collections. Maybe it's things that friends of ours have added, so we can actually ask their input and to say, hey, is this actually
everybody's got their different way of doing this, and I'm just I'm getting through it. So, but other news, of course, it is the end of the year. I don't think I've even brought this up with you yet, Andrew, but I like doing it on air because it's fun to get your reactions. But we, of course, have got some changes. I've talked about it briefly going into next year. We are going to change up some stuff with Chasing Labels. I'm not going to get into the details yet. I think I'm going to leave that for next episode because next episode is going to be the last episode of the year. And then we're going to take a couple weeks off for Christmas going into New Year. But we will have a format change that will, I will say at least this, Chasing Labels will become a monthly show. Of course you're used to hearing us every week. Now with this new format that we'll explain more next episode, it will turn into a monthly show, but there will be other things that fill up the other weeks. It's not like we're going to it's going to be just month between. We still will be doing the unwatched pile as part of one of them weeks. And then other things like interviews will be coming back more. And some other ideas for videos and content will be getting thought up, in the meantime. But we'll talk more about that in depth in the next episode. But the other thing is, I told Andrew we weren't going to be doing another Chasing Labels until maybe the beginning of February, but we do have one more thing we have to do, Andrew. The best of 2023, our best of 2023.
Yes.
So we have to do an episode at the beginning of January just for that.
The thing is, I don't even remember.
Well,
I didn't remember that at all until you just mentioned it.
yeah, we do it, and like last year we did it with Jesse from Diabolic DVD.
Oh
Um,
yes,
yeah, and
yes.
so
So that
we do need to do that.
so if anything, that makes everything a little more prescient when it comes to actually knowing what's come out over the past year, because I want to be able to actually make that list of things. Um,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
needs to be the list that is closest to you because it needs to be maybe more things that you've acquired, not
Of course,
necessarily
I think it's
uh,
usually things we've acquired over the year.
over the year. But yeah, man. So we do have that coming up, and so yeah. With that said, let's get into the episode. We do have, like I said, this would probably be a pretty short episode because there really wasn't a ton that happened. It all happened the last couple weeks. I
Yeah,
feel like they all squeezed it in the last couple weeks. So
yeah, very much so. So I guess first things first. Let's talk about Film Masters. It's
okay,
a newer company that's come along over the last year.
they're not
Speaking of which,
new. You keep saying they're newer. They're
I
not
feel
new.
like they do. Like I feel
They're,
like they're from this year. No,
they rebranded the previous company.
gotcha.
Yeah, so it's kind of they were previously I'm blanking on the previous name, but they were already a company and then they just rebranded it. But
Well,
yeah,
I can tell you their newest release, which is getting a new 4K restoration, is of the movie Tormented from 1960, starring Richard Carlson, Susan Gordon, Lou Jean Sanders, Julie Redding, and Joe Turkel. The release is scheduled to arrive on the market in April. So we're talk about the future. April is
yeah,
might as well be years from now, for all I know.
yeah.
So the description for this movie: Tom Stewart is prepared to marry when his previous lover turns up and demands he take her back. Their argument leads them to the top of an old lighthouse from which the girl falls to her death. Spoiler alert.
Ah,
Tom conceals his involvement in her death, but finds himself tortured by the woman's ghost, whose only desire is revenge. Hence the title of the movie, Tormented, because he is tormented by the ghost of this woman. Yeah, this is definitely like a B movie, C movie. Let me put it this way. Mystery Science Theater did an episode on this movie once upon a time. I think in
mm,
like their fourth season, so forever ago. That's how I know this movie. That's how I've seen this movie. I actually have it in one of the uh, Mystery Science Theater 3000 volume box sets.
yeah.
So I just rewatched that. And what's interesting is typically Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movies they watch are so bad that they're easy to riff on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this movie isn't quite as bad to where you can riff it enough to make for an entertaining, MST3K episode. So this movie I don't think is a terrible movie, but it's not good either. It's like right on the cusp for me.
It's not quite Mac and Me.
No,
Yeah.
no, not quite Mac and Me. No, oh Christ, no. Or Pod People, or Manos: The Hands of Fate, or
Or that
etc.
fucking
etc.
movie I hate, that goddamn ET
That's the
extraterrestrial.
Pod People one.
Oh god, it's terrible. Oh,
Yeah, with Trumpy, the little
Trumpy,
Trumpy
fucking
nose
Trumpy.
alien.
I do wish I'd have got that little toy, that little stuffed
That little stuffed animal was
stuffed
cute.
animal
Severin.
Trumpy. I kind of wish I had it so I could just look at it and punch it in the face when I'm angry.
But what is interesting is that episode, I believe, is included in this release because there's an introduction with MST3K writer slash performer Frank Conniff, who I think did one. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was on the show. And then there's also MST3K bonus film of Tormented. So I think you get that episode or
Okay.
their version of it. Um, I'm not quite sure. You'd have to wait for the release to actually come out. But so yeah, that movie is kind of what the description suggests. There's this guy who lives on this island, I guess, but it's weird because like there's also other people living on this island, like a whole
Hmm.
community of people, because the movie makes you believe that he's like, oh, he's this lonely like lighthouse keeper guy on this island, and then this woman came over and she mysteriously died so she can cover up her death. And but like that's not the case. It's such a weird
Seems like
disjointed movie.
a prequel to The Lighthouse. I just want to say that
It does really. uh
based on this artwork.
so yeah, so he basically tries to cover up the fact that that this woman died on his watch.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, he has a relationship with this other woman who he's going to get married to, and there's this little girl, I believe, is the sister of the woman he's getting married to, and she's like really close with him and stuff in terms of like looking up to him as like this hero, this great positive guy. And meanwhile, he's a murderer, and
Murder.
he's trying to keep this under wraps, but he keeps seeing visions of this woman, but the visions are not of her entire body, they're just of her severed head and her hand. That's the
Ah,
only ghost thing that shows up. And I'm just like, I'm wondering, I'm like, she didn't like get decapitated or anything. She fell off a lighthouse into the ocean. I'm like, that's what happened. So I don't know why this woman is appearing as just this non-corporeal head and arm at
yeah,
times. But anywho, if you can kind of surmise as to what happens. He is constantly tormented. It makes him deranged and makes him do things that he shouldn't do because his mind is slowly going. But yeah, it's just a really kind of dumb, not great B movie. But it's fun if you got somebody to riff on it with, in my opinion. Um, but moving on from there, let's move over to Studio Canal with some more kind of B movie esque horror stuff. They're coming out with 2 movies from, I think it's their Studio Canal Cult Classics line?
yes.
Yeah, it says Cult Classics on on the box art. And we've got 2 movies here. We've got, Horrors of the Black Museum and Devil Girl from Mars. Now, Devil Girl from
That's
Mars is definitely more in the very much B movie category. The first film is actually, more of a kind of macabre, almost Hammer horror-esque, horror film in my opinion, but I don't think it's part of Hammer. So the description for Horrors of the Black Museum: a series of grisly, macabre murders sweep London and leave Scotland Yard completely baffled. Uh, Bancroft, a crime journalist, is endlessly, I'll say this, he's fascinated with what's going on with this. He goes to Scotland Yard and kind of badgers them about the grisly murders that are happening and all this kind of stuff. He's also like an author of like crime novels as well. So he's like basically trying to get as much information to sell books as he can as well. This description completely, the reason why I'm not reading it fully is it completely spoils the entire movie, which is kind of unfortunate. Um, and he also runs this like museum of called the Black Museum, where it's like medieval torture tools,
mm,
and medieval torture antique items that are also there as well. He collects them. So the guy's kind of a bit of an evil person, I guess. I mean, you got to be a
evil.
little not evil, but unique to collect torture tools of the medieval, you know,
Is it just as evil as
stuff.
anybody that collects heads of animals on their wall?
I I guess I'm not a big game like
No, I'm just kidding.
hunting person myself, but I'm just saying like I guess not evil, but you have to be a unique individual to be like, hey, back in the day, this was used to kill and torture 100 people. You know what I mean? Like, it's fascinating from a historical standpoint, but if you like get genuinely excited about those things, um, that's just an interesting
A
like
little
little
odd.
facet of
Yeah.
someone. But we all have our things, don't we, Steven? I mean,
Picadillos, as they say. Little
indeed.
picadillos.
Yeah, Picadillos. But I'll say that this does have an interview with Kim Newman and an audio commentary with Kim Newman as well. He pops up on
Damn, Kim.
so many things. A lot of stuff from Imprint, a lot of stuff from Indicator. He pops up on.
Yeah.
Uh, he can talk. He gives very lengthy special feature interviews about very interesting subjects. Typically about this type of stuff, this macabre horror stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the Hammer stuff that's in the Hammer sets from Indicator, he pops up on. Um, Always very interesting to hear his insights on things. This film I know also stars, is it I always probably pronounce this it's Michael Gough or Michael Goff? The guy who played Alfred in the Tim Burton Batman
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he is that crime author guy in here who runs that museum, and he's a little sinister in it. Very good actor. If anything, I would say the acting in this film is kind of what makes it watchable. It's a very stuffy, very, like, a lot of people standing around in rooms talking for a long periods of time. Not a lot of like grisly murder scenes happening, except at the very beginning of this film. There's a pretty cool murder sequence, and then there's a decapitation at one point, which is comes out of
Shing.
nowhere, kind of. And I'm like, whoa, what are we doing here?
Oh,
Oh, here it comes. Um, but yes, that's that movie, and then there is Devil Goes to Mars. Once I read this description, you'll understand why this is a little more B movie esque.
okay.
So these are both coming out in January. Yeah, January 15th, by the way. So description: one winter evening in a lonely Scottish inn, guests become prisoners when Naya, a pitiless Martian with a robot minion, lands on Earth and
Mm,
traps them within an invisible wall. With Martian males extinct from a battle of the sexes, Naya aims to capture breeding stock on Earth. You gotta go somewhere, I guess. As escape attempts falter, the helpless humans must decide which one of them will die to save the others and possibly the world. Um, yeah, it very much fits in with the atomic age sci-fi of the 1950s, but
yeah.
just a very like uneventful B movie version of that. It's not the day the Earth stood still. It's not any of that. It's not as good as those films. It's not even as good as you know. It came from beyond, um, or even some of the other ones that are just completely blanking my mind right now. Yeah, so the movie plays out pretty much as one would expect. Just these bunch of people, these strangers are all, but mostly strangers, are all trapped in this inn in the middle of nowhere, and a Martian shows up like 20 minutes into the movie.
Hey
The
guys.
first the first 20 minutes of this movie is a completely different film. It doesn't get exciting until the Martian actually shows up and actually starts doing Martian type things. And the woman is dressed like a dominatrix. Like all she's missing is a whip, but she's like leather clad, very much dominatrix esque. I don't know if that was done
Nice.
on purpose just to like sell the movie
Oh, I'm
or
sure
sell
it
the poster.
was. I'm sure it was.
But she's very attractive, and so I guess like that helps. And of course, you know, she's very domineering in what she wants. Obviously, I just mentioned that she's trying to find breeding stock for Martians, so it's pretty sexual there in that
Sounds like a
regard.
porn to me.
It really does. Like, there's got to be a parody out there of this. You would think
I
so.
doubt it. It's too
I
old.
I
It's
mean,
too
if
old.
anything, they've taken this premise before and utilized it, not necessarily as a reference to this film, but
Sure.
there's probably tons of adult films like this. But other atomic age sci-fi that I didn't mention, like Forbidden Planet, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, 20 Million Miles from Earth, all of those are just
Yeah.
so much better and more classic um, than this one is. So yeah, it's fine. It's not really anything to write home about. Luckily, the movie's only 77 minutes long, and I think Horrors of the Black Museum is 82 minutes long. So we get short, easy watches, especially watching them for this podcast, and I guess watching them in general. I don't know what else is involved in the Studio Canal Classics line, but or Cult Classics line, but that's just kind of interesting how they've got a few underlyings going on over at Studio Canal. You
Yeah.
know, they've got their
Um,
main stuff. They've got of course, their 4Ks are gorgeous, and then they've got their classics, and now they've got their cult classics. So everybody's got their own little like sub farm of like imprints now. Like that's a whole trendy thing.
Well, I think they figured they could sell something better if it's kind of identified at the front. You're not trying to fool people with what kind of film it is. So some people like that. The more you can make it seem like it fits a certain genre, it's easier to identify for collectors. So I don't know.
Yeah. It also when you see that as a collector, like maybe it'll make you want to buy it more. I guess. Like the Kino cult stuff, it's like, "Oh, it's numbered. It's
Yeah,
it's starting a brand new line with number ones." It's kinda like the way comic books work, really. Every couple of
yeah,
years, DC Comics or Marvels start with new number ones in some way, form, or another. They're rebooting from scratch to get new readers in, to keep old readers interested, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's 2 things from Studio Canal. We got some other one-offs here. Wellgo USA is putting out this movie called Wolfpack.
mm. I,
Um,
I I love them in the WWE WCW, WWE.
Oh my goodness,
The
that's a
Wolfpack.
reference.
Remember that?
Yeah, they were put into. Weren't they put into like challenge the NWO?
Yeah, yeah.
This is
They were
like
like red and black. It's Sting was in the Wolfpack,
yes, yeah. Initially,
and
Sting was like the
Kevin
main
Nash.
adversary,
Kevin
and then
Nash
they ended up like NWO and them ended up
fusing.
like they initially fought and then they merged together, and then
Yeah,
NWO changed from like the white symbol to the black one, the black and red shirts.
yeah.
What a time to be alive in the
God, it
90s.
was yeah. I
What a
was
time.
randomly watching some because I realized on Peacock they have all the
They
WWE,
do.
and I went and watched like WrestleMania 15 or something. I was like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah, I know. It brings back a lot of memories.
Well, it brings back memories of me going to my friend's house and having to watch it there because we didn't have pay-per-view.
Thing is, I was that friend. I was the
Yeah,
one who got the pay-per-views, and people would come over my house to watch
yeah,
them.
asshole.
Well, back in the 90s, pay-per-view is not like it was now.
Yeah,
They still have pay-per-view, obviously, for like MMA fights and
yeah.
boxing matches and stuff like that. But in the 90s, they had pay-per-view for wrestling, and it wasn't as expensive as it is now. What was it like in the 90s? Like 20, $30 or something for
Yeah, maybe.
pay-per-view? Now it's like what? I don't even know, 80, 100? I have no clue how much it costs now for pay-per-view because I haven't done it in years. But yeah, everybody would come over to my house. I'd record it on VHS tape with my VCR just
Nice.
so I could save it. I had a bunch of them on VHS tape in boxes. I may have given them away at one point, but I had a lot of them from back in the 90s. A lot of WWE, some WCW. What a time to be alive. What a
Yes,
time.
what a time.
But Wolfpack, being put out by Well Go USA, is not about wrestling. The description here is while seeking answers about his father's suspicious death, a tactically trained physician
Shit.
infiltrates a mercenary group and soon uncovers a dangerous international conspiracy that could threaten the lives of millions of civilians. Now, this is a 2022 film. This is
Huh.
like new. This is coming out on January 23rd. Looks like a really cool action film. Yeah, really cool Asian action film.
Cool. I think they had another one here.
You mean Well Go USA?
Yeah.
They
Ghost
did.
Ghost Station? The Ghost
There it
Station?
is. Yeah, Ghost Station, which we may have talked about before.
Maybe.
Don't really remember.
I don't remember.
Let me scroll down.
Oh,
There it
yeah,
is.
I think we did because it says final details, so that means probably talked about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a 2023 film.
Wow.
I'm just reading the description in my head right now. Probably should read it out loud.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Everybody, can you hear that?
Yeah. Nice. Can you read my thoughts as
Yeah.
I can read my own thoughts?
Huh.
Did you know, Steven, that apparently many people do not have inner monologues?
I talk well. The thing is I don't really think I do because I say everything out loud. So like,
Oh,
I don't have an inner monologue because I just talk to myself all the time.
out loud.
Yeah.
I don't know what's more unique, that or the other thing. But
Well,
apparently having an inner monologue is like only like a small percentage of society has an inner monologue,
yeah.
which kind of baffles me.
It doesn't baffle me at all. I work with the public all the time. People are so stupid. People are fucking dumb. They don't think. They're in their own fucking world.
That's very
And
true.
there's no like, oh, that guy's looking at me because he wants me to move. Or I'm in his way, or like, oh, I should help him, or they're not thinking.
Yeah. Is there anything worse than being in line at like a fast food restaurant and the person at like the head of the line is in their own world and you can tell they're in their own world because they
Yeah.
have no awareness of the fact that this line is getting longer and longer and perhaps maybe they should just order their food and get out of the
Well,
way.
you know what's my favorite thing? Somebody stands there in line waiting, and then when the person asks them, "Can I help you?" they don't know what the fuck that they want.
Yeah.
That
I was
pisses
just
me
gonna
off.
say
They're standing there for like 2-3 minutes. You don't know what you want yet?
yeah, and it's usually
hate that
the late great comedian John Panette had a stand-up joke about that, where it's like
Yeah.
people would be at like Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they get to the front of the line and they don't know what they want, and it's like this place only sells chicken. Pick what chicken you want,
Chicken and fucking
or like, or
citizens.
yeah, he would have a joke about people at McDonald's would get to the front of the line and not know what they want, even though like they have literally pictures and
Wait,
numbers.
and the thing
Like they make it
you're
so
going
simple, you
when you
know?
go to a place like that, You've been there so many times, you should know the fucking menu by now, and
Yeah,
you should know exactly what you want by then.
most of the menu at McDonald's hasn't changed in 30 years.
Yeah,
Most of it, at least the main stuff. They add and take things away, but
yeah.
it's usually like things that weren't regular staples anyways. You know, like I know my brother used to like the chicken selects. They were there for a little while, or the snack wrap, which people love and people want them brought back. There's always rumors that they're bringing that back, but those weren't staples. But things like Big Macs, quarter pounders, cheeseburgers, like those have been staples there for decades.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't
McNuggets, they've been there forever.
you're getting me riled up. I'm getting riled up. Let's get
I know,
back to
I know.
let's get back to
And I
this.
don't even know how we got on this train,
I
but
don't
we're on this
either.
train now. Um,
Ghost Station.
Oh, we started talking about talk about Ghost Station train. We started talking about intermodal lines, but the
Yeah.
description for Ghost Station is after a young reporter covers a suspicious accident, she learns from police that her source was supposedly already dead at the time of their interview. As more mysterious deaths occur, she and her partner dig deeper into the case and come face to face with a horrifying truth.
I hate when
Um,
that happens.
yeah, I think we've talked about this before because I
Yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah.
reading that or you reading that or one of the two.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one of those things where like you're getting deeper and deeper into a mystery and you probably should have stayed away. You
Yeah.
know?
Probably.
I hate when that happens.
I
But this
don't
is coming
listen.
out December 19th
All
for
right.
those of you interested.
Couple weeks.
Looks like a 2-disc edition too.
Weeks. Yeah. All right.
Um yep.
Well,
So,
Kino?
yes, let's go to Kino. Let's see. Not much in the way of Kino, but some interesting news. So we already talked about this. Witness for the Prosecution's getting a new Blu-ray release February 6th. I'm only bringing this up just because there is one new thing about it. There's a new audio commentary from film historian Joseph McBride, author of Billy Wilder, Dancing on the Edge. The
Ah,
reason why I'm bringing that up is,
dancing
uh,
on the
uh,
edge.
yeah, I know the
Not
Aerosmith
living on
song.
the edge. Yeah.
Living on the edge. Ain't that the truth? I have the old Blu-ray for Witness for the Prosecution, and it doesn't have much in the way of special features. There is a Billy Wilder and Volker Schlondorf discuss Witness for the Prosecution. Volker Schlondorf being the director of The Tin Drum, which is part of the Criterion
Yeah.
Collection. He also did a Criterion Closet video many years ago, an interesting character of a guy. If you've seen The Tin Drum, like, makes sense. And he has some other stuff in the Criterion Collection as well, but I think The Tin Drum is the only one that really comes to mind. I think it's the only one I have, to be honest. Um, so that's an interesting release. For Witness for the Prosecution. Any more Billy Wilder? I'm all for. If
That's
you
always
don't own Witness for the Prosecution, get it. Get it. It's that good of a movie. Starring the great Charles Lawton. Next up is Kino Cult number 6. We were just talking about like Kino
ah.
Cult. Well, they got number 6 here on the docket. This is the movie Drifter, coming out February 20th. 2K restoration from the original 16 millimeter A and B negatives preserved by the UCLA Film and Television Archive. Audio commentary by film historian Finley Freibert. But this movie, first of all, this is a long description, but I'll get through it as quick as I can. A prolific filmmaker who explored documentary, narrative, and experimental cinema, Pat Rocco captured the essence of queer culture in the 1960s and 70s when it was still largely ignored by the popular media. Having achieved notoriety in the gay underground, Rocco expected his third feature to cross over to general audiences. A West Coast response to Midnight Cowboy. This is getting me very interested in this.
Whoa.
Drifter observes the odyssey of an emotionally ambivalent bisexual hustler, portrayed by Joed Adair, as he wanders through a series of relationships with men and women, yearning for a sense of belonging in Southern California, characterized by impersonal pickups and sex for hire, very similar to Midnight Cowboy. I know when we did Midnight Cowboy as an entire episode for Cinema Discovery Project, we talked about the idea of the John Voight character being bisexual,
Yeah.
and kind of probably not really realizing what that is or not really knowing what it is at that time, just because it's seemingly a more modern concept, even though it's been around forever. Um, it's been, Alexander the Great had sex with both men and women. You know what I mean? And that was thousands of years ago. But uh, so this feels very Very interesting. Playful and irreverent, Rocco's films could also be disarmingly earnest and sensitive, and might have found a greater audience had not serious gay narratives remained such a stubborn cultural taboo. As it was, Rocco's breakthrough film failed to receive commercial distribution. For decades, Drifter remained virtually unseen. 50 years later, Kino Cult celebrates Rocco's magnum opus with a 2K restoration, like I just mentioned, um, setting the stage for a reappraisal of Rocco's eclectic and historical significant body of work. I'm very interested in this release based off of that description.
Yeah,
It's probably I wouldn't say the only one of these Kino Cult ones that have piqued my interest. Um, the Jess Franco films are what they are. They're
yeah,
more of a unique, acquired taste of films. This one
yeah.
seems like this was like interesting. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like it's
yeah.
exploring interesting themes and interesting avenues that are both contemporary and of the time in which the movie came out.
This filmmaker kind of falls more in what I think Severin's been doing with some of their choices of kind of cult filmmakers, like the Andy Milligans and stuff like that, Al Adamsons, where that's the kind of and that so yeah, I kind of wish that if they had other films of his, maybe they did a little set or something instead of a one off here. But I mean, maybe this is his most popular title, and they wanted to
Right.
make sure it got its own treatment. So,
And we don't know.
yeah, yeah,
They're doing more in this line, so they could come out with more of this person's
sure.
filmography on
But
physical media, on
but a
disc.
nice set would be nice.
Oh, yeah. You do like your box sets,
I
David.
do like my box sets.
I was looking at box sets recently, just seeing what box sets came out this year and realizing the ones I
Yeah, there's
haven't
ones
delved
I
into.
haven't been able to get yet. Like indicators that one that just came out, the Slaughter set,
Oh, yeah, the Todd Slaughter
Todd
set.
Slaughter set. I want to get that.
I
Um,
saw Michael Brook talking about that the other day in one of the forums or in
well,
one of the groups on
he's
Facebook.
always pushed. I mean, he
He
does all
worked
that.
on it, you know what I mean?
He worked on
But
all
he
this stuff.
but he was talking about kind of reappraising these films,
Yeah,
because he hadn't seen them in so long, and he had kinda I think he said he kind of, like, had dismissed them the first time he had seen them, but then, looking back at them and all this kind of stuff gives you a kind of reappraisal of the
yeah.
Todd Slaughter films. I was only able to watch, like, the first film in that set when we covered it just because
Well,
they were rather obscure and hard to find,
Well,
you know?
I'm gonna surprise you right now in our audience. We will have indicator guys back on next in January.
Oh, see, I don't even know that.
Boom.
I learned about
Gotcha.
these things when you guys learn about them for the most
Yeah,
part. I
yeah.
don't
I like to do. I mean, we've had him on a couple times, and John surprised us at our 100th episode. Popped on and
I
said, "Hey,
remember.
yeah." And so I messaged him. Hopefully, we'll get it all. We should get it all situated to have them on near the end of January, and we'll talk about this year's indicator and maybe a little bit of sneak peek into 2024. So
Yeah, that reminds me, I've gotta get some indicators, released that I haven't gotten this year. I haven't gotten any of the genre lawn films yet.
genre line, all the
I
this
need
was their
all that.
first year delving into 4K, so that'll be exciting to kind of like see how things have been going with the 4K stuff. The one release I want to bring up real quick that I know that you've seen, I think you saw all the movies in the set, but the Mexican Macabre
Yes.
is a great set, and it's definitely going to be in my box set nominees
Oh, a
for this year because
little sneak peek of
yeah,
what may or
my
may not show
direction.
up. Well,
Well, yeah,
at least what you're gonna post up on.
yeah,
Yeah, I did get to see all those when it was announced, because I think, like, that set was announced and the one from Seven was announced, like, in this roughly close to one another.
yeah.
The Mexican Macabre, the
Yeah,
Mexican
they got and they did 2 volumes of that. They got a
Mm,
second volume of that this year.
they did.
Um,
They did.
yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of great we'll get into that when we talk with the guys, but, they had a lot of great stuff come out this year, but
Yeah,
back to what we were talking about,
yeah, I was just saying I gotta get some indicator stuff. I'm trying to this is the time of year. I'll give a little thing for the people. This is the time of year when I I wanna get myself stuff for, the
Christmas.
holiday.
Yeah,
So I'm like, "What did I miss out on that I really, really wanna get?" And then now I start taking stock of all the indicator stuff that I missed out on, all this kind of stuff. So that's been rooming around in my head all weekend.
yeah,
A lot of hours spent online looking at prices and things, doing the usual hunting that us collectors do. But moving on, speaking of hunting, here's Kino with their Winter Wonderland sale is still going on until the 19th. Don't tell. I was looking at that one too, Steven.
Mm,
I added a bunch of things to the card on there that I'm probably not going to buy.
yeah, yeah.
Just doing it for the heck of
Just
it, for
for
the
the fuck
thrill,
of it. Just for the fuck of it.
just for the thrill of it. I even watched Celeste Lacabra's video she did about going through the whole sale.
Yeah.
Even though I had already gone through it myself, I was just like, how can I further tempt myself into things? Let me watch somebody else talk about the things I just looked at.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Exactly.
makes you feel better. Yeah.
Makes you feel better. So, Mr. Bug Goes to Town is a movie that they are putting out, and this is an animated film from the 1940s, 1941, 1942. This is a Fleischer animated film, and this, I believe, was the last Fleischer brothers animated film that they ever did. I think they had a bit of a falling out at the time, and they kind of resigned after this movie came out. I was read the Wikipedia page of the production of this movie. It's several paragraphs long, and basically the brothers had a deal set up with Paramount as to just to get this movie done. Um, they could then resign as soon as the movie was finished because
Now
they just didn't
leave.
want to work with each other anymore. Talk about a family rivalry or dissolve. Yeah, Fleischer was one of those like animated studios back in the day. They did I remember the Fleischer Superman um animated shorts there, animated cartoons, which just got released on Blu-ray from Warner Brothers. I heard that release was not very good, visually wise, which is a damn shame because these are such those Superman shorts were so treasured, and apparently they screwed up when it came to the visuals of it all. But that's something for a different time. But anywho, Mr. Bug Comes to Town, or Bugville, as its alternate title is known, or as it was retitled over the years, has had a long history. Like I said, it was supposed to come out in late 1941. Then Pearl Harbor happened, so they pushed the release of it into the following year, and apparently it was just a box office failure. The movie cost like 700 and something thousand dollars to make. I think its lifetime gross was only 200 and something thousand dollars. So it was a commercial failure, and it's kind of been in the hands of several companies ever since. This is actually the first US home media release of this movie since 1989 when it was
Mm,
released on VHS and Laserdisc.
wow.
Um, so kind of unprecedented here. It's getting a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter Technicolor successive exposure negative. Don't ask me what that could possibly be, or how many generations removed from the original camera negative that is. But this movie has, seen its ups and downs in various quality forms. So this movie is set around this, I would say, colony of bugs, or town of bugs. Um, it's it's rather kind of tough to describe. So they they live in this area that's now being trampled and put upon by humans, because there's a hole in this fence, and now humans are kind of traversing their land. They're dropping their cigarettes, they're lighting things on fire without even knowing that these bugs are here. They're anthropomorphic bugs. They have their own little lives, their own little things going on. So, so their lives are being just a mess. They're just being messed with. And then of course there's this evil bug character that's doing sinister things as well. And so there's a lot of drama happening here. For a movie that's only 78 minutes long, a lot of drama happening here. So the happy tranquility of Bugville is shattered when the populace learns that a colossal skyscraper is to be built over their tiny town. That's also an issue. The family, there's a plot here that's a little convoluted, a little complicated. There's a family that owns this little plot of land that these bugs are living on, and it's a musician, and this musician is supposed to be getting this massive check from producing company because of a song he wrote or whatever, and this evil bug decides to intercept it so that he can basically blackmail the people of the town into marrying this attractive bug lady. I'm telling you, it's a little
Huh.
weird when you put it into these terms. But he also wants to, like, he says he's going to gift them this other tract of land that he apparently owns so that they can live on, but it's worthless because it's about to be built upon as well. So he's got his own machinations going on. There's this, like I said, this attractive young bug woman who is romantically involved with our main character, who is just arriving back into town after being away for a little while. There's a lot going on here. It's really, and they all have really weird names in here. Like Hoppity, I believe is the main protagonist of this. Um,
Hoppity.
yeah, like I think Honey is the attractive, like, bug woman. Um,
Wait, you think she's attractive?
no, that's the way they paint her as. Yeah, obviously, if she's the object of desire from two of these other little bug guys running around,
All right.
she's got to be thing. And
Sure.
then yeah, there's other characters called like Sea Bagley Beetle and Mr. Bumble. You know what I mean? Like these really weird, like cutesy names and stuff. You can actually watch this on Tubi. You can watch this on Amazon Prime. It's available pretty much in the public domain, for the most part. So it's available to watch at your leisure. It's a really fascinating historical piece for what it is. It's not a great movie. Like this isn't Disney at its peak or anything like that. But it's nice to see kind of what the animated world looked like, or the animated films looked like in the 1940s. I'm trying to think of back at that time, you had, this is the kind of pre-Disney days. Disney was around, but not in any, major way like we know of them now. I'm thinking of, you mostly had like short serials for animated things. Like I'm thinking Popeye and stuff like that. Um, yeah, the history of animation is so fascinating. Even Looney Tunes was around in the 40s as well, if I remember. But this is kind of a historical thing, that just to get this movie on Blu-ray in a new restoration, a movie that's, seen its ins and outs on physical media for years, that hasn't had a US release. And Steven, how old are you?
I am almost 35.
So 19, yeah, like I said, 1989, so 35 years. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's fascinating. Fascinating that this is getting a release. And I really like it. You know what I mean? I really like the fact that this movie is getting released. I like the fact that more animation's getting a Blu-ray release, getting HD releases. Um, yeah, that's always my thing. But moving on from there,
All right.
because yeah, and the movie's fine. Like I said, the movie's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Uh, if you're into old school animation, I think you'll dig it. But next, let's talk about this movie called First Love. First Love, starring William Cart, Susan Day, John Hurd, Beverly D'Angelo, Robert Loggia, and
Hmm.
Swoosie Kurtz. Shot by the same guy who shot Smokey and the Bandit and Blue Collar. Interesting.
That's interesting double feature there.
Yeah, very interesting double feature. Directed by Joan Darling, who directed Rich Man, Poor Man, and Book Two. Let me get a description of this movie, because they don't give it to us. Also, if you type First Love into Letterbox, you get hundreds of movies. So you got to
Shit.
find the right one. You gotta- yeah, the one from
1970s.
1977.
Yes.
So a young man is in love for the first time. However, his girlfriend is older than him, from a rich family, and has more experience with relationships. Their love is sometimes emotionally draining, but physically very passionate. Can it last?
Hmm.
That is the question.
Well, maybe.
It's a tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. Um, Interesting how a movie from 77 is battling these interpersonal relationship issues that kind of do still exist today, in a way. For example, like relationship insecurities between two people.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Maybe not these specific insecurities, an older partner with more life experience, with more relationship experience, obviously more partner experience, since, this is his first love. Also the uniqueness of a first love situation. I'm pretty sure many of our listeners and other people have experienced the uniqueness of first love, you know, and how powerful it can be and how overwhelming it can be. And usually it doesn't last. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't end up with their first loves for the rest of their lives. Some do.
Yeah. It is an interesting concept, one that has been, as you said, gone over many times. In a way, you could say this was a Romeo and Juliet story. in a way, you know.
Well, they were both like very young and inexperienced with life and love, um, and it ended up tragically for them. Had they been older and wiser, I don't think they would have uh, uh, met the end in which they did. They may have
But
thought things through a little bit more.
I would love to see maybe somebody has done this, but like a reinterpretation of or not interpretation, but almost like a change the ending of Romeo and Juliet and see what would happen if they didn't kill each other.
Well, I actually saw this on TikTok the other day where somebody, played out the what if Romeo and Juliet had like best friends, and that best friend that they confided in and brought up like the situation, and how would their friends react? And to
Yeah,
be like what are you doing? You're marrying this person you just met a couple of days ago. This you know what I mean? It's almost as if they needed somebody in their lives like a best friend, a confidant to tell them
yeah,
not to do certain dumb things that you shouldn't
yeah.
be
Well,
doing, Don't marry somebody you just met. Don't drink poison. Don't, do these things, you know?
hell are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Faking death. What are you doing? Um, you need those people in your lives to kind of help you out, We all like to think we're the smartest people in the room sometimes, but sometimes we're not. We're our own worst enemies. Uh, and so it's
All
nice to have
right.
people around. But that's First Love, movie I've never seen. But let's move on to Eureka. The only major slate we had of the week was
Yeah,
Eureka.
kind of special. So they got different releases here. The first one we have is a double feature. It's a Bodyguard Kiba 1 and 2. And it's described a double bill of Japanese martial arts mayhem starring action superstar Sonny Chiba. Of course, we love that. Um, Based upon the manga by celebrated writer Iki Kajiwara. Bodyguard Kiba follows the uh, impetuous karate master and professional bodyguard as he is hired to protect the mysterious Reiko, a woman embroiled in the world of organized crime. Kina's involvement with Riku brings him into conflict with the Yakuza, leading into a final bloody showdown. Then, in Bodyguard 2, Kiba 2, Kiba is released from prison after taking revenge on the rival martial arts who blinded his sister Maki. Uh, Back on the streets, he takes a job working for a shady nightclub owner. Stop making me say all these Japanese names. Once again, forcing him to take on Japan's criminal underworld. So that's Bodyguard Kiba 1 and 2. I think you did see these,
I
right?
did see these.
Yeah.
These have actually already been released here in the US in the first Sunny Chiba set put out by Shout Factory, or Shout Studios as they are now known.
Yes.
As we mentioned, I think in the previous Eureka announcement, they put out what was it, Samurai Wolf and Samurai Wolf 2?
Yes.
And those were in the Sunny Chivas Volume 1 set put out by Shout Studios. So they're doing the same thing again. And I do want to mention that the only special feature that is in the Sunny Chiba Volume 1 set from Shout Studios is a 26-minute long interview with Sunny Chiba. These have other special features in them that are definitely worth owning. So if you haven't bought those sets yet, and I guess want better editions in terms of more special features, um, these are probably the ones to go with. You've got in the Bodyguard Kiba 1 and 2, you've got Viva Chiba, the documentary featurette looking at Sunny Chiba's Bodyguard Kiba films. You got a feature length audio commentary on both films. I think those are. Let me see. I was actually on their website, and does it tell me who was actually? No, it just says new feature length audio commentary. I thought it actually listed who was doing them. But yeah, so these get more special features. I'm pretty sure it's going to be similar. Um, yeah, restorations. Yeah, it says new restorations of both films by Toei. Um, That's interesting. I don't know if they're the same ones that are on the Shout one or if they're different, but either way, this is just a better release in general, in my opinion. For my perspective as if I was collecting these this is the release I would go with. Um, I will say this: the first movie in this set is pretty damn cool, pretty damn awesome. The second film, rather different and not quite as good. The first film, Sonny Chiba's a straight badass in that movie. If I remember correctly, the movie was one of the first movies to be rated X when it came to being shown here in the U.S. That's why it like I think there was some issues with it being shown here because it was rated X because of the violence. And it's a pretty violent movie. Obviously, by today's standards, not so much, but by the standards back then, very much so. Yeah, but he's a straight badass in this movie of like he's this boss bodyguard, badass martial artist, um, kicking ass. And in the second film, he's similar, but the story and the tone is different. Like the first film just feels like more of his story. He gets embroiled in this plot that's going on. He gets embroiled in um, just a lot of the things going on. Sometimes it has a little neo noir vibe to it, in my opinion. Like he's sneaking around at night in certain places that he's investigating and whatnot. So yeah, he's a karate master and anti-drug vigilante. Um, he basically returns home and he wants to get rid of like drug trafficking in Japan.
Mhm.
Yeah, the first moments of this movie, he kicks a bunch of guys' asses who are trying to hijack a plane, and then he has a press conference of when he gets there, announcing his intention to wipe out the nation's drug industry. He also offers his services as a bodyguard to anyone who is willing to come forward and provide information about the drug lords' activities. He is soon approached by this mysterious woman that Steven mentioned, and basically he has to protect her because she's diming out local drug lords and kingpins and stuff like that. Um, and it's rather cool. And yeah, he's a total badass. And there's a second film, which is also called, it's called a couple of different things in a couple of different places. If you go to Letterbox, it's called Karate Killer.
Mm.
It's also called, I think, Kill or Be Killed. If you go to IMDb, it's got a bunch of different names. But yeah, he's back again as a bodyguard, but um, he begins basically working as like uh, in a club, for like a gangster guy. And what
Name is Akamatsu.
Akamatsu?
I said it.
That's the name you couldn't say.
Well,
Uh,
at first I couldn't because I was sick of trying to say all these names, and then I was
so
like,
yeah, so it feels like two different movies with two different characters. The only thing that connects like really him and the character from the first film is that they're both like super badasses. But in the first film, the way he carries himself, the way his screen presence is he's so commanding. In the second film, it's like he's just like some dude for hire, like who just got out of prison and is trying to like get back to doing what he did before he was in prison. Um, it's totally completely different, and even 2/3 of the way into the movie, he like completely disappears, and someone else takes over as like the main plot. Not the main plot, but of one of like the main screen time of the movie. And I'm like, get me back to Sonny Chiba kicking ass. I don't care about this romance that's happening on screen right now. Yeah, he develops a romance with this woman who's working at this club, but then her boyfriend comes back. But her boyfriend was the guy of which Sonny Chiba met in prison before he got out. So he comes back and he's like, and they, so his friend comes back and strikes up a relationship with a woman he was also having a romance with, which they drop completely. There's a lot of problems with this movie, as you can tell. And then then the movie focuses on that relationship, and I'm like, no, I came here for Sonny Chiba. But then we get to the third act, and it's people like fighting on abandoned highways and shit. It's wild. Um, it's yeah, the whole climax of this movie takes place on like these abandoned like highway overpasses where they're just fighting. Like they're just fighting on them, and then like, no cars drive by, no people walk
but
by,
it must
nothing.
be the same one that it must be the same one that fucking Keanu Reeves jumped in Speed.
Oh well, at least in Speed they gave you like reasons why the highway was clear. They like cleared off all the highways, didn't
Well,
they?
no, that scene where they jumped the bus.
Oh yeah, because they're on the highway that's not finished, If that thing's
Yeah,
being
it's like,
built.
oh, look, a unfinished highway. We see that every day.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. Speaking of which, somebody robbed Keanu's house the other day?
what?
Yeah, I
Who
read
would
about that
rob
in the
Keanu?
news. They stole was a gun. It seems kinda weird to me.
Would they think it was like a John Wick gun or
I
something?
guess. I don't know, but that's what I read, and I'm like, "Who's robbing Keanu Reeves' house?"
What the
Of all the
fuck?
celebrities to rob,
Yeah,
why are we
really.
robbing one of the good
The
ones? You
coolest
can't
one?
Yeah, we can't rob one of the shitty ones?
Yeah,
Come on.
can't fucking rob like goddamn, Jonah Hill or something.
Oh, gee.
I'm just
Like,
kidding.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we don't want anybody to get robbed, but still, Keanu Reeves is like a treasure of
Really?
a person. You
Fucking
get
amazing
I
guy
know.
that
Pretty
I'm
cool
aware
dude.
that I've heard. Um, but
But
yeah,
so you got like I said, the second film not as good as the first film. Like I said, totally different, plot-wise, kind of all over the place. First film is awesome. But then we also have a second film here.
yeah. So we have the swordsman of all swordsmen. So I guess he's
Very
the best
original
sword.
title.
I guess he's pretty good. I guess. Um, description: a tale of honor and revenge by celebrated master of Wuha cinema, Joseph Koo. Having witnessed the brutal slaying of his entire family as a small child, Taizwing Ji spends several years wandering in search for who's responsible. After years in training, he intends to use his expert swordsman, because he's the swordsman of all swordsmen, to exact revenge on Young Chung Chang, uh, and his four company accomplices who murdered his father in order to obtain a legendary weapon known as the Spirit Chasing Sword. Interesting. But after dispatching several rival swordsmen that stand in the way of his righteous revenge, uh, Toots, how do you say that? Tights.
I'm trying to find out where you are. Let's see.
Glad you're following along. Tights comes to
I think it's
contemplate.
just sigh, like
Okay,
say or sigh. Yeah,
Psy. No, the T's silent.
yeah.
Psy comes to contemplate the futile nature of revenge after young Chung's daughter, Flying Swallow,
What a
saves
name.
his life. Swallow says that's a what of a name. Yeah. All right. Is there only one movie or is there two movies here? I see The
Well,
Mystery of Chess Boxing in disc 2.
Well, it says here, followed by The Bravest Revenge and The Ghost Hill, The Swordsman of All Swordsmen is the first entry in Joseph Kuo's Sei Ying Ji's trilogy and a landmark work in wuxia genre. Eureka Classics about to present the film for the first time ever in the UK from a new 2K restoration, along with Kuo's influential kung fu masterpiece, The Mystery of Chess Boxing, available only in the limited edition set.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. Huh. Huh.
Yeah, oh yeah. If you read here, it says high definition transfer. This is for the mystery of chess boxing. High definition transfer from the only surviving print of the film, supplied by collector Dan Halstead, head programmer at the Hollywood Theater in Oregon.
Huh.
Well, it's a bit of a rarity we have here. Um, Also, that's pretty cool. Imagine owning the only copy of a movie. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I wish I could say I have that.
That's a lot of pressure to make sure you don't
Don't fuck
nothing
that up.
happens to it. Or you don't damage it while showing it because you never know if a projector will start going crazy on you and chew things up. I mean, not chew things up, but whatever. That's a lot of pressure. But that's very cool. That's a good slate. I mean, it's Eureka doing what they usually do, delivering these really cool films. Um, I just wanted to check to see if the Swordsman of All Swordsmen had a release outside of the UK. If I only knew how to spell Swordsman of All Swordsmen. No, it does not have a US release. So that's interesting, but it does have release in like France and other places.
Yeah.
Interesting is if you type in Swordsman of All Swordsmen, Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman comes up
Huh.
on Blu-ray.com.
Huh.
Interesting to know. Yeah, I was actually just doing some Eureka research over the weekend as well, just to see what they've done over the year of 2023 as well. Because I completely like the first half of the year, basically from January to June, I completely drew a blank on in terms of like what came out. For some reason, I associated it with last year. Don't ask me why.
I could already tell you right off the top of my head one release I'm putting on Shelf Shock nominations is a Samurai Resurrection.
See, that was this year, wasn't it?
I believe so.
That had that cover is ridiculous.
That movie is just fucking good.
Yeah, that movie is really good too.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of Eureka, I know they're in the line of duty.
I'm sorry, not Resurrection, Reincarnation, my bad.
Okay, Reincarnation, right.
Samurai Reincarnation.
Their in the line of duty releases were all in the early part of this year, except for the first one. So like in the line of duty 2, 3, and 4 were all put out by both them and 88 Films this year. And I completely forgot about that 88 Films box set that they had put out as well. I have the recency like bias, I guess, when it comes to things that have just come out over the last couple of months. But yeah, that's just been what I've been doing all weekend, just going back and researching all that cool stuff that we've talked about all year long, and getting prepared for Shelf Shock, getting prepared for buying my own stuff to add to my own collection, even though I have no shelf space left, Steven. I don't know how you're looking.
I'm all right.
All right.
Because I slowed down. I slowed down.
Nice, but, nicely done. Well done.
I know.
You've got strong willpower. Impressed.
Not really. But all right. Well, that's it for this little installment of Chasing Labels 128. Andrew, please let them know where they can bug you.
You can find me on Twitter or X at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook at Stephen Billings, or over at our Chasing Labels group page. Me and Andrew are in there. You come over, we'll let you in. Talk to us. And then over at our X page, I run the Chasing Labels page along with our Instagram page. And then you can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.